And I'll finish with this poem, and it was inspired by a poem by Sarah Salway, who's another one of my favourite poets, from her collection, You Don't Need Another Self-Help Book, which I just think is a great title. So it's for Sarah Salway, and this poem is called One Wish. The world has only one wish, hidden in the roots of singing daffodils, whispered by skimming clouds, encapsulated by every raindrop that slides down my cheek. Dawn and moonrise know the truth. The multiples of single ripples spread out on the lake feel it too. Blackbird and robin song, the breeze of the grasses over hilltops along the lawn, every footstep and every heartbeat, you belong, you belong, you belong. Thanks very much. Thank you.
If everyone wants to unmute and properly clap, that might be quite nice. If we all like unmute, like count to 3. That was beautiful, Bethany. I think we all need to feel like we belong at the moment. So that was a really nice mantra to close on. Thank you. I would like to introduce to you the lovely Adela Najarro, who is the author of 3 poetry collections, so Split Geography, Twice Told Over, and My Children's, a chapbook which includes teaching resources. And with My Children, she hopes to bring poetry into the classroom, which is lovely, so that students can explore creative writing, identity, and what it means to be Latinx in US society. And every spring semester as well, she teaches Poetry for the People, which is a workshop at Cabrillo College, where students explore personal voice and social justice through poetry and spoken word. And if you want to find out more information about Adela, I'm going to put her website in the chat as she performs her poetry for us this evening. And as ever, you are more than welcome to put your thoughts on the poems in the chat as we go. So whenever you're ready, Adela, thank you so much for reading for us tonight.
Okay, thank you so much for everything, and congratulations on Lucia on this beautiful book and your gorgeous poems, and what a celebration, what a privilege it is to be here to celebrate poetry with you. Congratulations. And Bethany and Fly on the Wall Press Poetry, thank you so much for your poems, Bethany, and for the press for putting these beautiful words out in the public and for inviting me to be here. I so appreciate it. Okay, so I'm just going to start right in, and like many, I've been divorced. So here's a celebratory poem. Okay. Oh, let me see. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. What changed? After I changed one husband for another, I changed my shoes. I changed my earrings. My dreams changed too. I began slamming doors and shouting no. A blue Cadillac crashed into while driving Camino Real. The only part that stayed when I woke were words that swam in cool ocean water. After I changed one husband for another, I cast a spell in a dream. I changed my shoes, I changed my earrings, I changed the locks, the bedspread sheets, and towels. Sadness and loss changed to dancing a cha-cha two-step under a moon and a star. I began walking a mountain trail filled with eucalyptus and black squirrels. After changing one husband for another, I heard a moon and a star laugh in a twilight sky. I changed my shoes, I changed my earrings, I changed the locks. Clouds fanned towards mountains, rain fell on asphalt, and leaves stuck wet like a sentence that has too many participles and lacks concrete nouns. After changing one husband for another, I changed my shoes, I changed my earrings, I changed the words. The weather changed from autumn to winter, and I learned to rest my head on a shoulder. I heard a moon and a star laugh in the twilight sky. I cast a spell so the words that swam in cool ocean water could seep out from wounds as letters rising into space. Okay, and the second poem is called When a Poem Falls from Heaven. When a poem falls from heaven, gallons of milk and loaves of bread expire at the corner market. The past due electric bill slides into the mailbox, and the stainless steel pot from last night's dinner remains on the stove. When a poem falls from heaven, my father and Abuelita rise up to the stars in the embers of a burning log, while fish with antenna project light in the deep sea, while pericos perch in rainforest canopies. When a poem falls from heaven, fog on the bay rests like memories of the homeland, plátanos fritos y queso, and yes, sweet is good. I can write on the margins of a loose leaf notebook, pick hermit crabs off the beach in San Juan del Sur, slip a sailboat into a bottle, flip 3 tortillas on a comal heated from a bubbling caldera. When a poem falls from heaven, words repeat on billboards, in headlines, across silver block walls, on volcanic clouds after an eruption. They rise from a cup's broken handle, a window pane's cracked frame, a hand mirror's shattered glass, and leaves crumble as birds cross sky. When a poem falls from heaven, hombres, mujeres, the gendered knot, speak the world. As my car speeds through a yellow light at the corner of the moon and waves slide over sand crabs while flames turn into coal, low and warm on a beach campfire. When a poem falls from heaven, I listen to my mother's phrases, the vowels that cry in her ear. It is necessary to hear her life as she blinks, smiles, turns a ring on her finger. Let us focus on the words from my mother's lips. Mija, ven acá. My mother never kissed me. Will you? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Ah, that was beautiful. And actually, I can see exactly why. I know that yourself and Lucia are both with the same press as well. And I can actually see how your styles will complement and the beauty of being at home and, you know, and the female body and celebrating that. And yeah, I can see the links and it's lovely. So thank you. That was full of magic and atmosphere and I think lovely and complementary to Lucia's that we're about to hear. I would like to say something about why I chose Lucia's book in the first place back in the day. I remember, yeah, it was quite a while ago now, but I remember when I first read it, there was this beautiful sense of belonging, and when you come home from a really long time, and that wonderful like indulgence that family hopefully can be for most people, that sense of deep love passed down from the generations, particularly on the family side, and celebrating bravery and female resilience. So I love that about it, especially some of the Abuela poems, which we're probably going to hear some of them tonight, have just this lovely sense of evocative sense of smells and tastes and that things that really brings you right into what your grandma's kitchen was. So we're going to hear a little bit about that tonight. One of our lovely blurb writers, Jessie, said that it's a brilliant poetic excavation of life as a Latino American, which I think really does sum it up, and that longing of family and ancestral ties. So what I'm going to do without further ado is we're going to hear some of the poetry, of course, from Lucia, and then we're going to have a Q&A after that. So while you're listening, think about anything that you'd like to ask Lucia. So when you're ready, we are ready for the grand performance, Lucia.
Thank you so much. Difficult act to follow, but I'll do my best. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. So I'm going to start with this poem, Grinding. They become alive in the kitchen, those wheat flour particles that didn't make it into the oven as dough for our breakfast bread and float around with the sunlight. Dressed in black from head to toe, Grandma walks through the beans and dissolves the vision. She grinds coffee with a heavy universal mill, iron clamped to the table, turns the crank, holding it from the wooden handle. With every turn, she crushes the coffee beans further until the crank has no more resistance from inside the funnel and the beans have been all reduced to powder, releasing an aroma as familiar as the 7 a.m. news on the black and white TV. I want to turn the crank, and she, as always, gives me a swift no, still turning the crank, the pot with boiling water already on the stove. Ill for a while, Grandpa died at the hospital 2 days ago. He wanted to be cremated, his ashes released into the ocean, sailor until the end. I heard Mom and Dad pleading for his wish. Grandma gave them a swift no, that's not the proper way. And she keeps grinding the portion for today's coffee, right before we go to the funeral home. The coffee there, she says, is terrible. The next one is called The Paramo Train, and is inspired on a real life trip that I did with my father when I was 11 years old or so. The Paramo Train, the Andes. I have seen them from above, running on loneliness and shivers. They go on forever. The Paramo, the passing place on the way from the city by the estuary to the city by the sky. When Dad was alive and I was 12, La Nariz del Diablo. I imagine a roller coaster ride where coins would fall from our pockets and the condor would eat from my hands the offering I brought, my wonderment. The cool mountain wind squeezes out tears like rain falling horizontally, like a bullet train, like the drops of a limon stomped by the boot of the hacienda's owner on the way to collect the tribute from the peasants a few generations ago. I wish the train would ride straight ahead, but no hope. It goes up and up, a snake climbing in concertina moves. The train charges forward while I go back in time. In the same railroad, una niña traveled to the highlands with the father. The father visited a yesteryear friend. La niña met the friend's son. They played cards until the light bulbs started blinking at them, and she felt like a grown-up for the first time. The mountain, all that soul, king, God, Inti crashing on stained glass windows. We are visiting that hometown church, just like we did before. The light, emboldened, interviews the stations. This, our Via Dolorosa. Heading with Dad to the snowy slopes. The sun looks at us from the side now, our best side. The blue above is the blue of truth, splashed with purple and orange and red, raw scrambled eggs of divine birds, ancestors of the condor. The faces of the Andes. Little kids, apples on their cheeks, hold their hats to protect them from the wind's meandering, and breathe mountain, the brave version. And we wish, in our own ways, to be one with the land, which brings me to Dad's wish. His ashes are snowed under now. Next one, thank you, is called The Window. Numbness in her legs, she flower gardens her universe. Unfaithful witches that flee as soon as she falls in love with their shimmering pageants. Like the gardener with an oversized razor who leaves behind an aftershave smell of freshly cut grass. The wind, that voyeur, undressing trees at will, touches her and blows her hair no more. The rain, a truthful visitor, saturates her core, unyielding whip branding her bones. All she has fits in here, this window and this front porch, which the sun reaches before burying its head in the far ground. The evening's thunder sends her down a wormhole of memories from when she returns with the scent and exact burgundy of her childhood peonies. And a blossoming wish. These grounds are not yet receiving her biodegradable ultimate present. Vacant land beyond the fence, she hereby exists. This one is morning. Funeral at 36 degrees. The music waits more, heavier also, the smell of exhaustion squeezed out of armpits encased in black. A cotton woven grief cast. Candles fade, lilies decay, quiet talking blossoms. We address each other's despair with soft words and embraces. Voices come to a halt when Rafi, the old lab lying next to the coffin, moans as if he's the only living being on the planet. My mind goosebumps with the realization that Rafi is beginning to grasp that no treats or cuddles will be offered to him again by those crossed hands. And the next one, embroidered past. I still miss not seeing you at your finca anymore, sheltering under your porch from a sun as tropical as your fruit compotes and your plantain delights. You, who once told me that a woman is not a woman if she doesn't know how to make cheese, which I don't, but I could find out. That was before your speech became harder for me to understand. Before you spent most of your evenings by your window reading the Bible until the day had extinguished its last light. But then you had the light in you. You believed. Now I have, by way of my mom, the embroidered linen your mother made, your mother whom I never met, except in the altar you kept across the main living room window with pictures of her, your dad, and your firstborn son. Let's go to this one, satellite. Belle, tell me when I have to stop. Otherwise, I will keep going. Okay. Satellite. My mask collection remains in my hometown, boxed in the utility room of a building with fishbone antennas. The mask I now wear is pale and winterized. The piranhas that hunt in my bloodstream bite with fluency of familiar griefs, leaving a feeling which could be fear, but slightly more complicated, involving greed. Keepsakes preserved with camphor balls, diminutive moons. Moon is also the cold mirror to look inside my mouth at the doctor's office when the lump in my throat becomes unbearable. And the old building got a facelift and now has a satellite dish. And next one. Mementos. Containers, receptacles for things to be preserved, counted, treasured, stored instants, receded surprises, topics in lethargy, an acheron crossed, nirvana of the minutiae, the Ethernet of things, dated, undated, object memory, frontispieces, beheaded presence on the tabernacle of time, scents with decanted appeal, nothing like the smell of camphor to abhor perdurability and the idea that holding stale things ransom equals to owning the moment. Now, let's go to the small bank. The small bank. Its shape shifts thanks to my pneumatic help from a lethargic piece of rubber to a yellow, fully rounded form. Its perky lightness makes us gravitate toward it, minuscule, reachable song. But you don't know when to stop, do you? Stressing the cheery surface to its limit, all is left is the lingering rebuttal, a sunshine promise now reduced to its empty core. And I'll read this one and another one, and that will be it. Intruders. In the MRI, ambers float randomly inside a clear bag. In my uterus, heartless pulsating heat, kicks and punches. They talk to me in burning bursts, feed and expand all the oxygen in my blood. They argue, we are benign, don't mind us. We are a happy family. Your mother had us too. Do you remember? You are so much like her, inside and out. It must have felt different, I tell myself, carrying them from carrying me. They have shrunk to silence now, but they still rumble in my head. And let's finish with From the Deck. Robbers screech by the adjacent road. The creek curses east on the other end. Greenery above us stencils the sky into a puzzle of light, seemingly at peace with itself. The dog's onyx shadow bolts towards the neighbor's backyard in pursuit of wild game. Used to chases, rabbit take its pointy ears elsewhere. Dog returns to our garden victoriously holding next door's dog's stuffy animal, similar enough to the rabbit to be a proxy bounty. I seize some fresh air, mute river and road, return the stolen good, unsure for an instant about whether this poised blue sky and this purposeful green mesh are the proxy or the rabbit. Thank you.
If you want to unmute, we'll try and
Thank you.
That was a really beautiful, full flavour of what we can find within the collection. So thank you very much, Lucia. Of course, what we'd like to do now is if we have lots of questions, then Lucia would love to answer them. You can either put them in the chat or you can ask them in person. You can just unmute. I'm sure people might need a few minutes to think of some. So what I thought I'd do is just show you. So we've got two covers. So I thought I'd share my screen and show you them. So I might be only able to show you one because of the way my screen works, but I will show you. We have This is our subscriber cover, and also limited edition. So we've got like 10 of them in this lovely electric blue. And then we've got here, if you can still see, we've got a mint green colour, which is our trade edition. And so if you do like the electric blue, you're more than welcome to pick it up. We've only got 10, so you have to be speedy. And then the mint green you will be able to find forever and ever. So don't worry about that. But yeah, we thought it would be fun to have 2 covers. It's been something different this time, just to bring 2 different flavours of colours into it as well. Lucia, do you want to start off talking about how the collection came about? I know it was a couple of years that you put it together, just while people are thinking of things that you might want to ask you.
Okay, yeah, sure. Actually, I started writing it in 2015 without knowing that it was going to end up being a collection, of course. Just a few poems that I was, at that time in 2015, I was living really far away from home. I was living in Singapore, and that maybe that is what triggered this desire to express in words and transfer to the paper my feelings, I guess. So that was the beginning. And then I kept writing. I wrote other things and other collections at the same time, like parallel writing. But these women-centered poems kept popping up, and then I just let them be. And then I realized that they really were talking with one another, and they were becoming a collection. So that was the beginning. Thanks for the question.
Amazing. And I think you know, the tributes to females in your family are definitely something that comes out beautifully in your work. I think that's something which I really love about it, is that in that way poetry is universal. You know, we fall in love with your family without having met them and without having that connection, but we feel it with you.
Well, I'm not sure that everybody will recognize themselves in this poem, so you know how it is. It's
well, poetry is subjective, Lucia. Yeah. So Lucia, unless anyone has any last questions, I'd like to ask you one last one just to finish. Also, Bethany says, do you, when you're writing, is there a process?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I usually don't have like a clear idea about why I'm going to write when I start writing, but I just give myself the opportunity to write. Like, even if I don't think that I have anything in me to write at that moment, I try to do it. And I have developed the confidence that something will come up, and that's something with enough review will become something potentially worth of more reviews, right? More editing. Then a few times I just like sit at my desk with a very clear idea of what I want to write, but that is not the case most of the time.
That's reassuring to know. I feel like recently I've been doing, like you say, sitting and trusting that it will come, but not necessarily creating amazing work.
But that is, you give the opportunity to that work to potentially emerge. Otherwise, it won't.
Otherwise, you've written nothing. Yeah, exactly. So, Lucia, Sue has asked you, do you find that your poetry has changed over the past couple of years, or your themes have changed?
Definitely, my poetry has changed a lot. And so these poems are from that period, let's say, right? And I am very proud of them. And but they portray a moment in my poetry. Right now, I am being a little bit more, let's say, experimental, more based on giving more importance to the shape of the poem and other considerations. Sometimes, well, lately I have been writing a lot in Spanish as well, and also ekphrastic poetry.
So cool.
Yeah.
You have to show us some of the artworks a little bit later on social media or something that you're using as your inspiration. So I know a lot of people like to work from artworks and things like that as inspiration, so it could be interesting. And Adela has asked, she's doing a bit of my marketing for me, because she says, how did you find out about Fly on the Wall?
That's a wonderful question. I don't remember exactly, but I saw because I lived in the UK for many years, I have always been connected to what is going on in the UK, right? Then I saw this new press that had an open call for flash fiction, poetry, etc. And then I sent a flash fiction piece, and it was accepted enthusiastically. Then I thought, oh, okay, it seems like they like my work, so I'll send something else. And then when Bell opened the call for chapbooks, poetry, and fiction, I sent it, and then, of course, I got the wonderful email letting me know that they were going to publish it. So that was fantastic. So
I remember that short flash fiction. It was really weird, and I love that.
So that is contemporary. So that is a most recent piece of work. Yeah, that is a little weirder.
Yeah, I love weird. I love a bit of weird. For people that won't have read it, because I can't off the top of my head remember what the magazine was. Was it Chaos? Is it Chaos, Lucia, that you were in? Or was it The Weird and Wonderful? Might have been
The
that.
Weird and Wonderful, yeah.
The weird. Yeah, that's why it was weird.
Exactly.
Right. Was it a woman, was she eating bits of flesh from toes as medicine? Yeah.
And so, that is actually, of course. And that is actually, in some sense, it is ekphrastic, because while I was in Singapore, I met an artist who creates beautiful flowers and insects with the skin, with the skin of his feet, the sole. And then he has to go through a process of like harvesting it and then walking to create more after the skin is not tender anymore. So it's a process to create more material. And then I interviewed him for a magazine in Singapore, and that it was like present in my mind because it was so interesting, right? And then this story came about based on that. So it is ekphrastic as well, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I remember actually talking about the artwork as well. So
right.
We have some more questions for you, Lucia. Do you find that you write best during the day, or are you a night owl?
I usually prefer to work early in the morning, but sometimes I have to work late at night because it's the only time I have. But I prefer the morning, yeah.
And also, Laura is asking, what usually are the seeds of your poems? So is it a word or a phrase or a particular rhythm or a topic that you start from?
It depends about from where the inspiration comes. If sometimes it happens that I read some poetry and I feel the urge to write my interpretation of that, right? And then of course it's based on words or phrases. but sometimes it's an image, and then the operation is different, trying to find what of that is amenable to my words, or so it's different. Thank you.
I love how you call it an operation. Intense. And Claire says, if you had to recommend something in the moment, poetry-wise, what books would you recommend to us?
Well, actually, I have been reading 2 poetry books, one in Spanish and one in English. The one in Spanish is Historia de la Leche by Mónica Ojeda, History of Milk. That is really, if we are talking about weird, well, yeah. And also, I don't remember the name right now, but it's this poetry book of Nicole Seeley. What is the name, Nicole? I have been reading it. The animal after whom other animals are named. Ordinary Beast. No, Ordinary Beast of Nicole Seeley. So these are the 2 books that I have been reading lately. Yeah.
Nice.
And several others, but these are like the 2 that I am enjoying. Savoring.
More than one on the go. Oh, and someone has read Nicole Seeley's book. They say they love it. Laura.
Yeah, right.
Amazing. Well, I think that is all our questions, Lucia, for this evening. If anyone has enjoyed this evening and would like to read more of Lucia's work, you can find it on flyonthewallpress.co.uk or all international book retailers that you can imagine. Obviously, we've got an international audience you might want to buy from Waterstones, Barnes and Noble, Book Depository, right, etc. You're more than welcome to. You'll be able to find it there as well.